Hey guys, this is Sid Patel, CEO of Beverage Trade Network and USA Ratings, and we're live at USA Ratings from San Francisco. I have Jeff Feist here with me. He's a head buyer who takes care of the wine buying, spirits buying, and beer buying at Save Mart Companies. And I'll let Jeff introduce, what kind of things are included in the portfolio, what kind of stores are included. Jeff, thanks for joining me here.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Sid.
Great.
So Save Mart is a mainly California chain, 200 locations. They actually do business in 3 different banners. And I do the buying for not only beer, wine, and spirits. So that includes pricing, promotions, marketing, and assortment.
I want to go right, into the context because it's very rare that we sit, or brands at least, get to hear from such a sizable buyer, right? So let's go right into what it takes to get into a big national chain. I want to start with just a normal medium-sized brand. Let's assume that you need to be sort of well covered in distribution for sure. You are available in most of the states, and let's assume that the prerequisites are taken care of. Now I want to go in the meeting part, right? Like they got a chance to meet you. So what are the 5 things that is a big no for you, and what are the 5 things that are a big yes for you in that meeting?
Okay, I'll give you a couple on the no side. One is you have to know your story and your brand better than anyone else. And occasionally you'll see these brand owners, suppliers come in and like their brand, but not love their brand. And unless you love your brand, that's the first bad step you can make in trying to get in a chain.
So you are seeing the person's passion when they're pitching?
Passion is a huge part of it because passion goes a long ways. It's how are you going to help me grow my business? And if you're not 100% convinced that you have the greatest thing in the world, then I'm probably not convinced that you have the greatest thing in the world. So that's one thing. Another thing that's a big no is not offering a different story than what I already carry. And I always talk about kind of the 3 legs to a stool. If you're only going to have 3 things that are very important about your brand, what are those 3 things? Is it a great package? Is it a great product inside the bottle? And is it, organic, or is it, the ingredients that you use, the grapes that you use to make the wine, whatever it might be. Whatever those 3 legs to the stool are, has to be a little bit different than what I already carry. Because what I don't need is another $10 Chardonnay that's made, looks, feels, and tastes like every other $10 Chardonnay on my shelf. If you're going to pitch me a $10 Chardonnay, one or 2 of those legs to the stool have to be different. And that all comes out in kind of the storytelling and the passion. And probably the last no is selling on price, because price is important. But if a supplier comes in and says, I'm going to sell you the greatest vodka in the world, and it's cheaper than the market leader, then the first thing I have to say to myself is, why would I ever want to carry that? Because if it's less in price, less margin, less dollars in the ring, it's not a compelling story. If it's more expensive than the market leader, I do have a chance to make more margin, but you better be priced right. So I think when people lead with price, I always think that's probably not the best strategy. It can be part of the overall strategy, and it should be, but you can't come in and just say, I'm cheaper and I'm better, or I'm cheaper and I'm going to sell more, because that's not always the case.
What are the, you've sort of answered the yeses as well in that, but let's say, what other things you've seen which, really like, okay, I like this supplier, where they are pitching in?
Yeah, so I think, again, the passion is extremely important. The story's important. And then I always like the supplier that can touch on every facet kind of the business. How does the packaging, is the packaging different? How does the packaging fit in? Where are you going to go on the shelf? Where do you want to go on the shelf, and why?
So you like them to have visualizations of end caps and shelves when they're showing you?
I love that. Look, I want to go on the shelf here, and here's why. We think our consumer is this person, and we don't think you're taking advantage of this consumer.
That's a good point, yeah.
And we're going to offer a brand that does that. So I do like that whole story. The other thing I like about suppliers is they have to ask for the sell at the end of the day.
Correct.
And that's a big mistake some suppliers ask. They come in, they're passionate, they make a great sales pitch. I taste the product, I really like it. They tell me where they want it to go in the store. They get up, they shake my hand, and they leave. What they don't say is, how do I get in an ad? How do I get on the shelf? When can you put me in? I need an order today. Can you write the order today? So that's, you would think that that's kind of a rookie mistake, but I have a lot of senior suppliers come in and talk, and at the end of the day, they don't ask for the sell, and it's a big no-no. You got to ask for it. You're a salesman.
Do you think that they have a fear of rejection, or they may think that you're judging them, that they're just greedy, or they're asking for sale?
Maybe, but they still got to ask. There's two ways to do it.
You said very nice ways to do it.
There's very nice ways to do it, but you got to ask for the sale, because I think that's so important, and I think people get lost.
Because let me go there, because then if they don't ask, you're just not going to follow up, right? It's them who have to follow up with you and ask.
Yeah.
You will have more and more coming anyway, so you're going to move on.
If I sold tequila and I was going to go see a buyer in the month of March, the first thing I would say is, I'm anticipating you advertising some tequila for Cinco de Mayo coming up. How do I get in the ad? And what I'm asking you today is, I want my tequila in the ad, and here's 3 reasons why it makes sense. And I would tell that whole story. I have a lot of suppliers that come and see me in March pitching tequila, and they don't ask for the ad on Cinco de Mayo, or they don't ask for the display, or they don't ask for an extra facing on the shelf. And to me, that's sometimes a miss. But, look, in this day and age, brands are getting more sophisticated, better looking packaging. So it's tough as a retailer saying yes to the right item and no to the right item, but that happens. But when it gets down to it, the sales rep that has a lot of passion, is really invested in their own brand, ask for the sell, has a pretty good chance of making it in.
How much is merchandising driven, or let's say data-driven pitches? Have you seen? I'm sure. Big producers like Gallo and Pernod Ricard, and they would have data, and they would have, okay, there is that space which we can actually start making you money. So how can small brands get those kind of data from you and then prepare their pitches?
Yeah, it's a good question, and obviously the big companies out there are all, a big part of their presentation is data-driven. We see your business doing X, and we have an answer for that to fix or to help you in that category. Small companies, if they don't have the data, the best advice I can give them is, go to my stores, look at my stores, find a hole that you perceive, and solve that hole for me. If I'm not carrying enough French wines and you sell French wines, that's your story. Hey, I think you're underdeveloped in imported wines. French is a huge category. You have consumers coming in looking for French wine, but you're underdeveloped in that category. And here's how I'm going to help you. Here's how I'm going to help you in that category. So a lot of it is, even if you don't have Nielsen or IRI data, feet on the street can give you a lot of answers.
Got it. One last one. Any examples of an amazing growth hack any supplier did where, like, wow, this guy hustled? Any stories that come to mind?
A couple. Listen, in the spirit side of the business is probably the strongest category we have. Beer and wine, not so much, but spirits is definitely great. Bourbons are on fire. So it's different, because when you have a different bourbon story to come in, those kind of jump out at you. Same with tequila. Great category, really hot. Another little category that's pretty hot is gin. And I'll tell you a story. Empress Gin just recently sold, hot, made out of Canada. Who would think a Canadian gin is going to take the United States by storm? But that brand has done extremely well. It's premium priced, but it's different.
So what was your story there?
So when they came and pitched me, and it was like, we're pea flower and we can change colors in the glass, I thought that's really not for me. That's not really my gin of choice. But I tasted it, I liked it. The packaging was absolutely beautiful. They were so passionate about the story, and they created a need in my store that I didn't have. Hey, this gin is different than every other gin you have, and here's why. Customers that come in are going to be looking for this, and we think we can fill a void. And I said, I didn't even know I had a void, but I believe you, and I'm going to try it, and I'm going to buy it. And it's one of the best selling, premium super premium gins in the country right now. And that's just one example. But, you know, they saw a need. They were extremely passionate about the brand. The pricing worked out. And I felt like I was onto something as a retailer. And that's the greatest feeling in the world, is like, I know a secret that no other retailer knows.
That's true.
And you know that's not true, because they're pitching this to everyone.
Correct.
But I feel like if you came and said, Jeff, I have the greatest gin in the world, I'd say, I like that. I like that you're coming to me first.
Yeah.
Even though I might not have been first, and then we're partners.
Yeah.
And partnerships, that the word partnership is something that you never overlook, and that goes back to passion and, you know, what the product is and how well you tell your story. And when I get passionate about something, then it takes off, because I'm much more likely to put it on an end cap, on a great spot on the shelf, in the cold box if needed. And that's really what our business is about.
If I was a supplier, right, and I can feel that, okay, Jeff's losing interest in my brand, you know, I can see that he's not motivated, maybe because it's not moving too fast, or, you know, or maybe he's just not, he has 100 different brands, so I understand. What can I do to have you passionate about my brand?
You keep after it. And the number of times that I'm going to allow you into my office to see me and to tell your story is very few. You know, I'm not going to see you weekly. I'm not going to see you maybe even monthly. So if you can only see me 2 or 3 times a year, you got to make sure that the second time you're you're in front of me, you're telling the same story, the same passion, but a different story. And you're adding something different to kind of the outcome, to the partnership. And whether that means the first time I brought your brand in, I put it on the shelf, but I don't feel like it's doing great. How are you going to fix that? I want you to come in that second time or that third time and say, hey, we know that our brand isn't doing up to your standards, but here's 3 things that we're going to help you with. 1, we're going to take a different approach on our pricing strategy. 2, we're going to have more marketing arms to the brand. 3, we're going to use social media much more strategically than we have in the past. And in fact, we're going to drive people into your stores that are already fans of our brand. So that's really kind of the impetus of it. You know, you got to keep telling a story, keep telling it differently, but, you know, be true to the brand.